It's time to go back to school, and whether you are a parent worried about navigating the complicated world of childcare or helping your kids with homework and so on, other issues as well, or you're a student concerned about starting a new challenge with a new school year, it can be very stressful this time of the year. Joining us now to talk us through that is Carrie Krawiec from the Birmingham Maple Clinic. Carrie, thanks for being with us today.
Of course. Thank you.
Appreciate having you on. So as you get to this time of the year and you're talking to parents and you're talking to younger people who are going back into the thick of things with school, whether it be in elementary, middle, or high school, or beginning their college journey or going into the workforce, what are some of the common issues that do come up about this time of year as people are getting ready to go back to school?
Right. I think it is, even though it's not the new year, everybody does experience a little bit of a new year around this time. So,
Yeah.
on the positive side, people are motivated to set goals and make changes and almost a resolution of sorts. But then other people are really experiencing anxiety, probably a sadness for maybe a fun and relaxing summer and one of our first since the pandemic where things were really, very enjoyable, and then going back to that grind is going to be a little shocking for everybody.
And especially for students that are going back into school after a couple of pretty tumultuous years of back and forth from being in school to being at home, from all the COVID restrictions and regulations that were in place, and just the uncertainty that came with being in the school environment. How do you suggest for parents as well as for teachers and administrators to address those anxieties from their students?
I think the first most important thing is to accept and acknowledge it, not try to deny it. I mean, school years for kids of all ages and parents too, and teachers too, are stressful. They come with a lot of stresses embedded in them, separating from your parents, meeting expectations, dealing with social pressures or new social experiences. All of those things separately would cause any of us anxiety. So it's no surprise when they happen all at once that they would cause anxiety, especially to like the youngest members of our community. And, additionally, then you add the pandemic and managing protocols as well as fears about becoming sick or unwell and school violence, which we've also encountered in the last couple years. All of that is just, I would say, to embrace the anxiety and say, of course we're feeling anxious. To not deny it or minimize it would be one of the first tools that every adult should be using when they're encountering an anxious kid or person.
In terms of educators in the classroom, when these anxieties, when these other issues that are maybe being caused by the stress of going back to school or just being in that environment, when these come to pass and they are becoming an issue in the classroom, what suggestions do you have for teachers and for other administrators as well to address those issues with these students in a way that's productive for them, but also isn't putting more pressure on that student, given the environment that they're already in, being in some cases a catalyst for that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think one skill we could all strengthen, whether it's adult to adult, parent to child, teacher to child, in our own lives and relationships, is our brain is like a super highway, right? And we get a piece of information and our brain just runs with it. But we actually can create new paths in our brain. And so I always say the 5-to-1 ratio, which is for every one negative thought we have, or sort of every one unhelpful way we have looking at a situation, if we can come up with at least five other alternatives, five other options, they might not just be positive, but as long as they're sort of realistic, it helps give our brain a little more information to work with. And therefore, we're not stuck on just our one anxious, unhappy, unpleasant thought.
We're joined by Carrie Krawiec from the Birmingham Maple Clinic on the Megacast. You can find more information and get in contact with the professionals at the Birmingham Maple Clinic by visiting birminghammaple.com. Birminghammaple.com is their website for more information. You can also call them at 248-646-6659. That's 248-646-6659 for more information. They are located on West Big Beaver Road in Troy, Michigan. And Carrie, in terms of parents, what are some of the common anxieties that they're encountering this time of the year, and how do you address that, especially because those anxieties can often then be picked up by the kids as well?
Sure. And I think like I said before, it's just like owning it and accepting it. One gift we can give our kids, even if we're feeling anxious, is to say, these are the things I'm noticing in myself that are making me anxious. And these are the things I'm going to do to take care of it. Like I'm going to take a walk, or I'm going to call a friend, or I'm going to talk to my own supportive therapist or other person who can be helpful to me. So modeling for kids that anxiety is normal, but also the skills to reduce it are normal and accessible and available, and that talking about it is okay. From a resiliency standpoint, kids and families where there is comfort talking about hard things bounce back better during future hard things than ones where all those hard feelings are shoved away.
We're joined by Carrie Krawiec from the Birmingham Maple Clinic on the Megacast. You can find more information by visiting their website at birminghammaple.com. Birminghammaple.com for more information. Another anxiety for parents too is when their kids are going off to school or going off into the adult world without them and leaving the home for the first time in some of these cases for a long period of time. For parents that are having anxieties about that, what suggestions do you have about different steps or coping mechanisms that they can take to ensure that they're relieving their anxiety, again, without having too much of an impact on others in their life?
Sure, I think it's such an important time. And one of them is just really acknowledging boundaries, probably talking and planning with your child or adult child ahead of time. How much contact or communication do you want or need with me? Can we sort of create a plan, maybe for some structure, some regular routine conversations or meetups, but not necessarily all the time? What would or could or should a parent do if they've got a college age or adult child going off into the world, in terms of um using Find My Device or whatever else, like in what ways should they be supervising and what ways they should be hands off? It's certainly appropriate to kind of predict and plan for what might I be worried about if I don't hear from you for X many hours. What would I be expected to do? What do you expect of me? Trying to at least predict and plan for as many problem areas as you can imagine, in hopes that you would never have to use them, or it would never become sort of a conflict where one feels maybe a little overbearing.
Carrie Krawiec joins us on the Megacast. She is from the Birmingham Maple Clinic, joining us on the program today. You can find more information and get in contact with the folks at the Birmingham Maple Clinic by visiting birminghammaple.com or calling 248-646-6659, 248-646-6659 for more information. And it's also at birminghammaple.com. In terms of the college students that are the incoming college students, that can be a pretty daunting environment for them as well, especially if they're going to larger universities, even those right here in the state of Michigan, such as the University of Michigan, Michigan State. Those are relatively large campuses with a lot of people and a lot of moving parts. That can be pretty anxiety inducing for anybody, let alone someone that's completely new to that environment and going in alone in many cases as well. What sort of coping mechanisms do you suggest for them to adjust to that new paradigm in their life?
Absolutely. And I think, right, for parents too, sending their kids into those environments can also be anxiety producing. I think, for one, is normalizing it, and two, taking an evaluation of what do you know. So, like, what is the information I do have? What do I know? What problems could I predict? What tools or skills or ideas do I have? And I think one thing that parents can do, even to their emerging adult kids, is, instead of saying, well, like, of course you haven't thought of, where are you going to park your car underneath a lighted, area or something, instead of saying it that way, giving the direction, sit back and let your kids tell you, have you thought about what you might do if you driving to your dorm late at night? Like, let them give you the information, and then you get to congratulate them for having a brilliant idea, as opposed to them feeling like their parent is like, doesn't think they can handle it. I mean, you really want to foster the idea that of course they can.
We're joined by Carrie Krawiec on the Megacast. She's from the Birmingham Maple Clinic on today's program, located in Troy, Michigan. More information, birminghammaple.com. That's birminghammaple.com to find them online, or you can call them at the phone number 248-646-6659, 248-646-6659 for more information. Carrie, another couple minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. Anything else that you're seeing pretty commonly in your office and in your practices right now, or that your colleagues are seeing in the community that would be important for us to address and maybe have some advice on?
I think right now, this time of year, it's really normal, that kind of getting off the screens and back to the routines, is probably one thing we're seeing parents really battle a lot with. The like sort of emerging expectation, especially in the communities nearby here. There's been parents manage a lot for their kids. If something's forgotten, then something is brought to them, or something, if something is lost, then something new is bought. And I think parents are feeling that kind of both resentment and anxiety, that like, do their kids have what it takes to do some of this stuff on their own? And so I think parents right now, especially as we're transitioning from the summertime to the school year, are trying to find a way. What are the things that could and should be our children's responsibilities? And what things do we as parents have to supplement, but also without kind of burning ourselves out as well?
Carrie, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Of course. Thank you.